All right. Welcome to the podcast, Jason. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, 100%, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Let's trace it all the way back to how you got into fitness in the first place, like just fitness as a whole.
Fitness as a whole. Well, I'm, in high school, I played basketball, and I played basketball well after I was in high school.
Nice.
I think I was about 22 or 23, and I was coming down from a rebound. I landed on somebody's foot, and I rolled my ankle, and then I heard somebody yelling, "That was it! That was it! That was it!" And I realized that it was me yelling that's it. I am done playing basketball forever.
Wow.
Yeah, because it was so bad. I remember going and seeing the doctor, and they're like, "Yeah, if you ever sprain your ankle again, we're fusing this together." And so I spent some time in a boot, and that kind of really was the end of me being athletic. That was I went into a trade school for electronics, and they had like a 3-on-3 tournament. And this was probably 4 years later. And I went to go play ball. And within 5 minutes, my ankle had swollen up. It was coming out of the top of my shoe. And I was kind of like, oh, so I'm done for really forever. I was not wrong.
Yikes.
And yeah. And, well, I'll just share the truth. I became a drug addict, and
It's often how it starts.
yeah, without really anything to like pursue, I pursued probably some of the more darker things that you can in life. I had a good job. I was working for the government. I had top secret clearance, and I was 30 years old, and I was 235 pounds. I'm not in a good way.
Wow.
Not in a good way. And I remember one day I was throwing frisbee for my dog. I was just standing there throwing a frisbee for my dog. My dog's running up and down this hill. And I was like, whew, I'm worn out. And it was kind of like this light bulb moment. At this point, I had gotten sober. I was sober for a couple of years, maybe a year or so. And realized, like, why be sober and not be healthy? Why be sober? And like, I got this dog running around. I can't even keep up with her. I'm just throwing a frisbee. What if I have kids someday? That would suck if I can't go out and play ball with my kid and run around, and I'm the dad that's like, Yep. So I met this through getting sober. I met this woman who was a plumber, and she was also a professional bodybuilder. Her name was Polly, and she was like jacked. And so I figured she must know something about lifting.
Yeah.
And she took me to Gold's Gym and humbled me for 2 hours a day for 5 days a week. And so I started getting a little bit stronger, and I was looking into other things and reading men's fitness or men's health. And I saw that 300 workout, which is kind of based off of this CrossFit thing. And I was like, ooh, that seems really interesting. And I went to a CrossFit gym, and the first workout we did was Fight Gone Bad, which is, I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's something that they put together for one of the top MMA guys at the time. So it was like trying to simulate a 5-round fight. And I was crushed afterwards. But I also fell in love with, like, oh my God, I love this feeling. And I pursued that for quite a while. It actually replaced any of the darkness that I was kind of chasing when I didn't have something to be passionate about. And CrossFit, like, immediately when I did that, I was super passionate about it, to the point where, much like when I found you, I realized, like, I'm doing this. I'm investing fully and completely into this. And it ended up, at the time I was doing comedy. I kind of had changed my whole life. I was doing comedy and I was personal training to make a little bit of money on the side. And I met this woman who had similar ideas about CrossFit as I did. And we opened up a gym. And and the story gets kind of crazy from there. But there was nothing like the community. There was, when I got sober, there was a community aspect there that, like, you know, we all had the same goals, and I hadn't found anything like that outside of CrossFit. And it kind of became like my family. You know, my members became the people I hung out with the most. We'd celebrate holidays together, host birthday parties. They'd bring their kids into the gym and put them in the play area and hang out. They played with my kids. And so,
I mean, like, it's priceless. Like,
yeah, 100%.
I think it's an important point to stay on, because if you're just on social media, I don't feel like people will fully grasp that about fitness, that there's another layer to it when it comes to the community side of it. Because, like, I had chills when you were talking there, just thinking, because that's how I felt about my gym, man. We would get together and watch, whether it was, you know, football playoffs or just going, hanging out together, or, like you said, the whole family, you know, like, I made so many, like, that was my, like you said, that was my family. That was outside of my own parents and my wife. Like, that was it. Like, that was my friends, my family. And that stuff is priceless. I mean, just speak a little bit more about that, because I feel like a lot of the up and coming trainers listening to this, they just see the social media, but, like, I did exactly what you're talking about long before social media. And my conclusion after being on social media now for a bunch of years, I'm going to keep trying to level up the education that I can put out there on social media. But my conclusion is I'm making a gym again, because that's a better way to live. I mean, and nowadays I think you can balance it and have some different multiple income streams. But, like, I mean, it was just lifestyle wise for me, nothing beat that.
I'll be honest with you, man. If I didn't have to get paid to do what I do, I'd do it for free. And I have done it for free a lot. Yeah. A lot. And it took me a long time to get to, I mean, within this last year, really, to get to the place where I recognize the value that I offer to people. Mm-hmm. This is not the part where I thought I would get emotional. But
that's what we're here for, man. That's why we're here. Keep it real.
You know, my whole life was about being in the gym, and the people became very close to me. And I never thought that it would be something that I would end up having to give up.
Yeah.
But you don't ever really know what life has in store for you.
Yeah.
And my wife was injured during a CrossFit workout. I think some snatch workout we did at another neighboring CrossFit in a different city. And from that injury, man, like, it just didn't go away. The pain didn't go away. And there are not many options when you are in chronic pain. You know, when you go see a doctor, they have basically two routes for you. And hers was pain medication and surgery. And it got to the point where it was just, there were some other things that happened in our life that, for her, running the gym, just even being in the state of Washington, because we had moved from California to Washington to open our gym, became very hard for her. And it was tough, because when we left Washington and sold that gym, we sold it to one of the coaches there, and that gym is doing great. He actually bought two of the other CrossFits in the area.
Wow, awesome.
Isaac. So, you know, and kind of looking back in retrospect, I used to be bitter, because I was like, I had to give all that up. And it had become who I was. It had become who we were.
Yeah.
And my wife, through being injured and through the course of doing the medical thing, the drugs that they were giving her, very high-powered opiates, they were hard to get off of. They stopped working after a while, so you take more. Yeah. But then, you know, the result of that is that you begin to change as a person.
Yeah.
And it affects everything in your life.
And you don't even realize it when you're in it.
I did not think that we came back here and we tried to do the CrossFit thing again. I got to work with Jason Khalipa and all the guys at headquarters and stuff. And I really got to see the inside of that world. And that was great. But she ended up becoming so sick that she could no longer coach or really do a whole lot of anything. And I became her primary caregiver. The opiates, they mess with your hormones. So it caused like a brain tumor and just all this crazy stuff. I don't want this call to be all about that, but her story ended in a way that many Americans end up when they get caught up in the opioids. And she eventually succumbed to her addiction to the drugs and passed away like 5.5 years ago. And that was by far the most difficult time of my life. It was a reset on everything that I knew. And during that time that she got sick, man, I didn't want to touch a barbell. I would frequently tell my athletes that stress doesn't care if it's barbell stress or if it's work stress or if it's family stress. It's all stress. And I had all of it. And just going out, and I have a full gym right out in my garage, and going out and looking at the barbell was kind of like, no, I got way more things to lift here inside the house and carry, right? And so when she passed, like everything that I was doing came to an end. The life I thought that we would have, and all these things.
I can't believe you're still going, man. I can't, like, how the hell did you get through this?
So I have 2 kids that we had together. And I remember reading, to not to get too far off of this subject, I remember reading Jordan Peterson's 12 Steps for Life. Mm-hmm. And he talks about, I think his father dying and how emotionally trying that was for him. But he realized, like, he needed to be the rock for his family. And I couldn't crumble. I couldn't fade away. Yeah. I couldn't retreat into this. It was hard. I just realized probably within this last year that my grief has kind of changed to something that's new. Man, my life is so much different than it was 5.5 years ago. Wow. Obviously that first year was hard, very, very hard. And many people, one of the people I had mentored and coached early on reached out to me and was a huge lifesaver. Because he was running a gym here, and I'll get to that in a minute. But
so this was someone that you had coached, and now
we worked together. Mm-hmm. And we were both kind of like meathead scholars, always reading books and stuff. And I was the first one to like jump into CrossFit and open a gym. And so, I would say we mentored each other quite a bit.
Yeah. I know what you mean, because I've got those buddies like that here. Yeah. Same thing. I know the vibe.
So I met my wife who's now my wife.
Yeah.
Didn't know that I met my wife. I met her pretty much on the first day that Diana passed. And so that was a blessing, because I didn't know how I was going to do all of this alone, like raising 2 kids. It had already been hard, but now I have that. And plus I need to walk these 2 little people through this loss as well. And I just didn't know how life was going to be, like I thought I did. And then life came in and was like, guess what? Reset, new path to take, whether you want to or not. And I just wanted to show up and be strong for my kids. And I think that, and originally that's what pushed me along.
Amazing.
And so again, here I was like I wouldn't say out of shape, but out of touch with fitness for, taking care of my family. Nothing wrong with that. Right where I needed to be.
Yeah.
And I just needed some place to like put all this stuff. And so I reached out to Ben, not you, but my buddy Ben. And I actually hired him because I did not want to have to think about, I just wanted to do.
Mm.
And so I would show up 3 times a week and he'd put me through these grueling workouts. And I mean, the other coaches would come over and be like, dude, why are you doing that, Dan? And he's like, you have no idea what this guy programmed for me before.
Yeah.
So he got a little bit out of it and I got a lot out of it. One day he says to me, hey man, you ever thought about coaching again? I was like, I don't know. He's like, you know what? I have a class tomorrow at 8 a.m. It's like 3 people. Nobody can cover it. Do you think you could just hop in there and do that for me just this one time? I was like, It was like pulling teeth, dude. I was like, okay, fine. And that was it. That was that moment where I realized, like, this is how I rebuild.
Mm.
This is where I belong, because watching my wife go through what she went through was one of the hardest things that I have ever done. And I felt really, really helpless. And, 5 years later, I look back at some of the things, I know now, and I'm like, could I have helped? And, during that time that I was coaching, I kept getting these videos of this guy jumping off a ladder. And I would just kind of scroll through my social media and be like, oh, that's cool. I don't play basketball anymore, so. But the algorithm was like, yo, dude, you need to check this out, because I had been talking to people. One of the big things I used to do was meditate a lot, and I would go on retreats, and I couldn't sit in a lotus position anymore because my knee within like 3 minutes would be like, ah. And so I would talk about this with people. And of course, the algorithms were like, oh, you need to see knee stuff. And so I just clicked on one of these videos, and within 30 seconds, I was like, oh, this guy knows something. I need to find out what exactly is going on with this dude. And I just reached out, found out if you guys had a coaching program. I loved that it was 2 years in the beginning, because I was looking for something that I could really dive into, and that would be
Remind
hard.
me of that, because I barely remember that.
Yeah.
There
was like 8 levels, and people had to be able to do Nordics and splits and stuff. And I was like, cool. I don't know where I'm going to find these people, but I'm doing this shit. You know what I mean? And then over the years, like, the people that I've helped through now, dude, I knew about Kelly Starrett and stuff. And I've always, running a CrossFit gym, people come in and they're like, oh, my back, oh, my knee, oh, my shoulder, all this. Yeah. And if you want to keep them going and keep them coming in, you kind of got to be able to treat them, right? And so I did like a lot of the mobility WOD stuff early on. And I found some of that flavor in what we're doing, you know? And I would see results with people who had knee pain for like years. And we'd go through like 3 workouts and they'd be like, dude, I hiked the other day and my knee doesn't hurt anymore. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy. And it, not only was I able to get back into something where I can really challenge myself and I'm like the dad where I go to the trampoline park and I act like Spider-Man, and my kids are kind of like embarrassed. They're like, don't hang out with me. You're doing backflips and stuff. You're not supposed to be that cool. My son hates how athletic I am. But he's coming up.
I assure you, it's so much better for your kids that you're athletic.
Yeah,
versus
100%.
The modern dad can't move, and just sits and tells the kids to go play.
Yep. And it was like having experiences where, I was being fed. I was helping people again. And I just realized, like, this is where I want to be. This is what I want to do. I want to get back that community that I want, or not get back, create another community of people, have a place to show up where, for me, CrossFit, everyone was welcome. Like if
Yeah.
you walked in the door as a new member,
Yeah.
or you walked in the door and nobody knew you and nobody said hello, like we're all doing burpees.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
Dude, that's why I have so much admiration for CrossFit. And that's where I think for ATG to like do the best we can by people, we need to learn and bring some of that to the world.
yeah, 100%. With the CrossFit, it was kind of like, this elite fitness, and they say that there are regressions, and I don't want to talk poorly about CrossFit at all because I love it.
I mean, I think the way we can explain it is that like it is a sport, and it has many positives.
A sport.
Any sport, to be a sport, there's going to be pros and cons. That's where I feel like with your experiences, I think there's really something there to have a gym made by someone who knows ATG and who knows CrossFit. I feel like there's really something there.
I absolutely, the idea of having the class schedule, it is extremely hard to run your business on just that, and you need to charge a price that makes sense.
Yep.
Which deters some people from coming in because they're like, even that's too much for me.
Yeah.
So what I would do is I would open up Saturdays for open gym. I'd run it just like a regular CrossFit class, and anyone was welcome. And that would drive some membership in, and it would give an opportunity.
That's a great idea.
Would give an opportunity for people who had to keep hearing from their spouse about, CrossFit, we did thrusters and because like once you're in that world, you're like all about, hey man, what'd you do in CrossFit today? What's your Fran time?
Yeah.
Right. So those people got to come in and kind of see like what that world was all about. The thing that I like about ATG is whether you, and I made this place for people in CrossFit as well, but dude, it is a hard sell for a 75-year-old person to be like, hey, throw this barbell over your head.
Yeah.
Anybody can do it, like, but I have like a 76-year-old triathlete that comes in. She does split squats, tib raises, good morning, stuff like that. And she feels great.
Yeah.
She feels awesome. And she gets a good workout in. She can go find the intensity on her own at her own pace. And that's for me, ATG has become like, you guys are my community. When I wish there were more of you closer by. That's part of the reason why I want the gym. Yep. I don't have any workout partners, which is something I missed about CrossFit,
Yep. And I've been there for most of the last 5-6 years, like what you're saying, where I don't have any training partners because I'm just at home making the content, doing the workouts. And it's like there.
And I want this stuff to grow for people because I think I'm in the place now where I've been at the gym that I'm at for, I think, almost 2 years. And I see some of the other trainers doing ATG stuff. So they see the value in it. They're pulling it offline or whatever. And I don't mind. You guys do you. But I see from very early on when we were flying out to Florida, I was like ready to go. Phil and I were coming here from San Jose, and we were talking about opening up a spot. And then, you were in Florida too, so you know what happened there. And I was like, okay, cool. So I guess we're flying solo, especially here in California.
Yeah.
And then more recently, I saw Mason and Ferdinand. One of the other guys get their level 3, and I was like, oh, cool. They got some level 3 stuff out, and I was reading through the posts, the Pulse, and I realized like you were talking about gyms again, and I was like, what? Hang on a second. What's going on? So I immediately like went over to my personal text. I was like, hey, Ben, what's going on? As you said in Florida that we couldn't do this. And you're like, oh no, full bore. We're ready to go now. Yeah. And I was like, well, get me on board, because I think not only in the Bay Area, but dude, people need this stuff. People like, I'm not saying I could have helped Diana, who was my former wife. but at least I would have felt like I had a shot.
Yeah.
Because everything that they were doing was only making the issue worse to really, and the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah. ATG has become like the thing I fall back on for all of, there's stuff I'm RKC certified. I had my level 2 CrossFit. I went through Mike Boyle's stuff. I'm really knowledgeable. I have a lot to offer, but I keep coming back to the ATG stuff. One, because it was like the early days of CrossFit. When you go to CrossFit.com, you'd see all those articles, and I was like, oh, this is heaven. I can learn about anything I want to learn about. They had Dan John. They had, just a ton of really like great writers. And ATG, where we don't do that, we have that group of like 700 coaches all over the world, all having different experiences. You jump in, like I jumped in the other day with I haven't had a client who we would do something, zero pain the next day, but then all of a sudden his knee fills up with fluid. I'm like, well, you're not in pain, so maybe we should keep pushing forward. But I was like, there's this little inkling in the back, like maybe you're not right about that, And so I went on to the Pulse, and we got to have this whole conversation about, and now I have a route, talk to Brian in Fremont, and I have a route to follow, and I feel confident about that, Yeah, and I think just people need to recognize, like, you have so much power in your ability to heal yourself. And I want to pass that message on to as many people as I can, because I think
it's a major purpose. It's a major purpose. Like the drugs, the surgeries. It's just that I don't think any of us are like against the science behind these things. It's more like it's just overdone.
Yeah.
And like, I feel like we're at like the early stages of like, what can we really naturally do about this stuff?
When I think in all aspects of life, where you look at nutrition, you look at, the internet, dude, there's just so much knowledge out there. Right. And it's interesting because I saw the same thing with CrossFit, like the fitness industry changed. All of a sudden now everybody was doing like powerlifting or trying to do Olympic lifting, and people got introduced to kettlebells. Like nobody knew about kettlebells in the United States before CrossFit. You know what I mean? And so now we're taking like these ideas that I guess you'd say you'd find more in a physical therapy environment, and we're bringing them into the gym, and we're making people like freaky athletic by doing some of this stuff. Or we're just helping like some 45-year-old guy with back pain, like get back to playing tennis again on the weekend.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so that like, there's this huge spectrum of where we can take this. And that was the thing that I think CrossFit, it touted that, but in reality, it was really hard to offer like the same thing to everyone.
Yeah.
And with the classes, with the ATG classes, you can have everyone progressing through zero, everyone progressing through dense or something like that in a class environment. And for those people who want to dive a little bit more or need a little bit more like attention to what they're dealing with, you offer the personal training aspect of it. But then bigger than that is creating a community where like, we talked about this in the ATG for gyms, where the 9 o'clock mom can come in and drop her kids off and do the thing. Or if they have like a 6-year-old kid, they can join in the class and push sleds around, because I don't mind.
Yeah.
I have kids too. I know how that is. So
it's priceless. I still see local moms that I can tell, and like they ask me like, are you making a gym? I can tell they're like so disappointed that they haven't found anything like that since.
Yep. And I had one of my clients, I think I mentioned this in the Pulse 3 or 4 weeks ago, right when this started happening. I was talking with Franz about this, like out of the blue, one of my clients said, are you ever going to open your own place? And I was like, that's funny that you say that, because it's kind of in the air right now. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it's been floating around. It's interesting that you bring that up. And she says, well, you know, if you ever do, I wouldn't mind investing. And I was just like, dude, between seeing what you were posting and just where I'm at right now with renting space from someone, and, you know, I bring equipment here from my home in my truck for the guy that I know I'm working with that day, because they don't have the stuff that I want. And I got trainers coming up to me and they're like, dude, you always bring in the weirdest stuff. You know, like, like I got Tib bars and Thor's hammer and stuff like that. But I dig it, man.
Well, let's take it right there, right? I also didn't realize we're on a 40-minute timer. We got 5 minutes. So we'll continue. We'll continue the combo. No, it's my fault for having a 40-minute timer. But yeah, like for you being a level 3 coach, being in there from the beginning, getting results with people in the real world, like that's your shit. That's your zone. That's your domain. Meaning you could go open an ATG tomorrow if you wanted to. The way we have it set up is like, or I guess the way we are setting up is like, okay, it starts from that point, right? We don't want gyms near other gyms. So like the idea if someone is an up and coming coach is that they have a chance to make like a real legacy gym in their area. And to where even if someone lives 45 minutes, an hour away, like they can still go visit you and do a consult or something. Like there literally cannot be any competition from one gym to another, because we have to learn from the priceless side of CrossFit, but we also have to learn from any negative sides. And that's where like a couple of years ago, we saw like, it was like, oh gosh, like, okay, like I wanted gyms badly, but then like, you know, the smart people around me are like, CrossFit's going through these struggles. What the heck? Like, what do we like? And as we're seeing is like, you do need some of that personal training in there. Not 100% mandatory to survive financially, but it's sure going to make it a lot easier to survive financially.
100%.
And then if you have some other ATG coaches in your area that can now be popping in personal training to make you some extra money as the owner, and for them to not be the awkward guy in the room anymore, but to have like a great space to train. So now it's like, okay, because like you can start tomorrow. We also want you to succeed with it. That's really where we're at. It's not, this is not some like impossible to reach thing for someone to open a gym. We want to make sure that you're already getting people real world results so that we know that like you really want to do this, not like you just found ATG a few weeks ago and you're hyped up. And then we want to make sure that you're going to succeed business wise, but like you can go out and fail. We just want you to go out and succeed. And so we're at a point now where we feel like we have enough knowledge to help coaches succeed. But no, at this point, no, there's nothing stopping you. And you know,
well, the thing I'm most excited about is what's going on with Eric.
Yeah.
And actually I'm going to see Eric this Saturday.
Beautiful.
And that, because back in the day when we were doing the gym, I did all the meathead stuff, you know, and so anything that happened on the rubber floor, that was me. Anything that happened on the linoleum, that was pretty much Diana. And so now everything that happens is all me. And I feel, you know, you put me in a gym on the floor, I'm ready to go. You put me in the office inside the gym, I'm like, oh no, you know? And so, I mean, it's not as bad as I may be making it sound, but I definitely see the value in having what we're doing right now with this group of people who want to open ATG gyms in their area, but we're like, okay, well, let's find the form. What's the truth? Yep. Let's search out the truth and the best way to do this.
Yeah.
And that, I think, over anything is what attracted me to ATG. Was like, we're not saying we're right, that what we do is right for everyone, but we're trying to find like what's the best route.
Yeah.
What's the smartest way to do this? Whether we're talking about building our bodies, recovering from an injury, or opening up a facility that is going to be a place that serves the community in the best way that it can.
Yeah. Your gym should go on for decades, the next 50 years, forever, to be like a priceless thing in your community that all through
And I think,
the San Jose area, that it's like, that's something that's going to last and make you money, provide for your family. But you and I both know, like, we're after that priceless shit, but we need the finances.
yes, absolutely. I live in California, dude. Bay Area, most expensive place,
Yeah.
I think, in the world to live in, for sure, in the United States.
That's where I was born. So I know the change that, yeah.
And I'm here for a while.
Our time's running out. It's about to, I don't want it to cut you off mid-sentence.
You're fine.
Priceless podcast that you've provided for us today. I really appreciate it,
man.
We'll be in super close touch. Thanks for doing this. Thanks for making this far to the L3. Your work now is going to change the game in your community and for so many other coaches out there.